Good morning, Jags. This is Fahad. Today is Tuesday, October 6th. Let's get started. BioNTech, symbol BNTX, and Pfizer, PFE. As you all know, that these two companies are working together for the COVID-19 vaccine. If you look at BNTX, yesterday was a very strong rally in this stock. It closed just above $80 per share. And then in pre-market, this stock is gapping higher by more than 10%. It's trading at $88, $89 per share. You can see there was a significant rally that was taking place when the pre-market trading started. And so this thing is going to power higher sharply. And so you're going to be, it's going to go up to $90 per share. And then looking at Pfizer, PFE, this has a setup for a technical breakout. And yesterday I pointed out in the chat room that around 11 o'clock, I believe it was, in the morning, traders were coming in and they were buying these October 23rd weekly 37 strike calls. And over 10,000 of these contracts were bought to open for up to $1.03 offer. This is reflected in higher open interest this morning. And this stock is going to gap higher, Pfizer, this is, by about 1.5%. So let's see if that means we're going to break out from this downtrend resistance. And if it does, it's going to likely run to about $38 per share. Both of these companies are working together for COVID-19 drug. And the news that came out at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock this morning is that these companies are now working with the European authorities to provide the clinical trial results on a rolling basis. So instead of just submitting and releasing entire data all at once, they want to get ahead of it as much as possible, and they want the authorities to have a look at it as quickly as possible. So they're going to be announcing their clinical data on a rolling basis as it comes through rather than all at once. And market is taking it rather as positive. So keep an eye on both of these stocks. They're going to have a rather pretty good day. Now, with that said, I do have one stock that I want to cover, and that is MGLN, or called Magellan Health. My Thinkorswim is acting weird right now, freezing up on me as it usually does, but Magellan Health, MGLN. Okay, here we go. Now, if you look at Magellan stock, this thing has been consolidating 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for about 5 months in a tight range between 70 and about $78 per share. Yesterday, it started to break out and the volume was very heavy. So on elevated volume, this just started to break out through $78 resistance after 4 or 5 months of consolidation. MACD is starting to move higher. Volume was good. And if you look at RSI has sharply lifted higher in the past week or so from low point of 35 to 65. So this is telling me that there's a little bit of a thrust behind this. Now, a couple of things that you need to keep in mind. There was yesterday there was a little bit of a pickup, and it's not a lot. This is the kind of action that catches my attention, but rather skips a lot of people's eyes. If you look at the December 75 and 80 call open interest, we have seen just a little bit of a pickup in call buying in both of these strikes, December 75 and 80. So let's see if this is going to break out through $80 per share and gradually makes it up to $90 per share. There was a meeting that took place between the management of this company and analysts, and that was on September 10th. That included the CEO, the CFO, and investor relations officer. And in this meeting, a lot of new things were revealed. A couple of things that caught my attention was that Magellan announced that it has served 30 million Medicaid members within the pharmacy benefit, and it noted that its California contract is going to be bigger than originally anticipated due to the recession. How much bigger? They believe that contract is going to go from covering 13 million Californians to 18 million, or up 38% year over year. But economics won't ramp up as much because economics, or basically the benefit of that, will take time for about 6 months or more. So the real benefits of this larger California contracts will not be felt by the company by sometime mid-2021. And similar to peers, Magellan has not yet seen the expected commercial revenue declines from higher unemployment. So this has been rather sealed from any kind of economic meltdown, which is also quite positive for the company because this is standing out as basically a Teflon stock in the middle of economic weakness. And most importantly, Company also announced that it has 2 large contracts that are starting from January 1st, 2021. Now, they did not provide the details exactly as to what kind of contracts they are, but they said 2 large contracts are beginning from January 1st, 2021. We're talking less than 3 months. But what I did was I actually went to the conference notes, and I pulled the last earnings report, and here's a comment that stands out from the CEO. And if you think about this, they stated right over here. If you think about the book going forward and kind of what the current trajectory, as Ken mentioned, in the behavioral specialty business, we have the Molina commercial contracts will be coming on the stage, will be coming on in the stage fashion in 2021. And as well, we've got the other sales on the specialty side, expansion of existing customers that we believe will actually result in meaningful year-over-year top line growth as we go into 2021. End quote. This is an exact comment from the CEO of the company from a couple of weeks ago when the earnings came out. But then on September 10th, when they had this management meeting with analysts, they still did not provide what those 2 contracts are, but they said there are 2 large contracts kicking in on January 1st, 2021. I think this market is starting to set up, or this stock is setting up to break out ahead of those contracts kicking in, because management is telling us it's going to be meaningful growth driver for top line growth. So I like this name. Some short-term call options, some December call buying is also taking place, and technically this looks very nice for a breakout. The stock should break out through 80 and then gradually gets to about $90 per share. That's it from me. Jay?
Morning, Pod. So I have 2 stocks today. The first one is actually going to be a homepage write-up that I will publish later today, and that is on a name we've never covered before, DLH Holdings. Ticker is DLHC. This company provides healthcare and social services and health solutions to government agencies such as the VA, Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Defense. There was actually a Canaccord Genuity note yesterday that just caught my attention. It was for an acquisition that they just did. So ultimately, I started kind of working my way back to figure out who this company is, what they do, what's in the pipeline essentially. And one of the items that caught my attention was from the conference call. They talked about how they had received contracts to assist the NIH, or the National Institutes of Health, in their fight against COVID-19. And essentially these contracts, this revenue potential is going to be playing out over the next couple of quarters. So like I said, I'll have a homepage write-up on this company later today.
Sounds great, and a nice power candle yesterday. So looking forward to what you discover in your write-up.
And then the second stock is ELF Beauty, ticker ELF. So obviously beauty company. Last earnings, the company posted net sales growth of plus 8%, which was significantly better than estimates. JP Morgan had it coming in at minus 7.9%. Bloomberg had it coming in at minus 11.3%. Gross margins expanded approximately 500 basis points. One of the focal points from the conference call was their announcement of a new brand called Project Superwoman, which was a partnership with singer-songwriter Alicia Keys. And this brand is ultimately focusing on skincare, and this is an area where the company looks to grow. And most
sounds like Wonder Woman. Okay.
So
very
anyway,
nice breakout. So what do you discover there?
Well, so I mean, more on that probably next earnings. We'll get some feedback there. But it was a Morgan Stanley note yesterday that kind of caught my attention and why I'm bringing it up today. They talked about scanner growth providing sort of increased visibility that their above consensus Q2 numbers are actually proving conservative. But also they talked about these strategic changes that the company has made, which really they started in 2019, and ultimately everything is sort of bearing fruit right now. They talk about more effective marketing, shown by its early adoption of social media platforms like TikTok. They also talked about Project Unicorn, which is their shelf productivity initiative, essentially designed to improve brand presentation and efficiency at retailers like Walmart, like Target, like Ulta Beauty. And then they also talk about international expansion, specifically with skincare. Like I said, this is an area that they want to ramp up. So they talk about the UK business. They talk about how they recently launched elfcosmetics.com/EU in Germany, and they're now able to ship to 10 other EU countries. So we're about still a month away from their next earnings report. So if any additional channel checks come out, we'll be sure to pass those along.
Yeah, good stuff there. And while you were talking, I was also looking at a JP Morgan note, which is a little bit old. It came in the first week of July. But the important thing about this is talked a lot about the product innovation that's taking place in company, which is essentially resonating very well with Generation Z, Gen Z, and also it is starting to basically kick in as new growth drivers. So, for example, JP Morgan talked about this. Let me read over here real quick. They said that ELF portfolio is becoming even more aligned with Gen Z and younger millennials, while still resonating with older millennials and Gen X. We know that the company's most recent innovation, skincare, including the Poreless Putty Primer, it was the best-selling primer in the United States, and Camo Concealer are at the intersection of its core competencies in color cosmetics and self-care. Also, post its recent acquisition of the clean beauty brand called W3LL People and its premium plant-based ingredients, the company has launched a line of cannabis sativa skincare products at affordable prices to not only recruit but also remain relevant to its core consumer base. Pretty interesting comments about a lot of product innovation that's taking place. And before that, Piper Sandler was also out in June talking about market share gains and all these product innovations. So I think you have something, you have an interesting pick here. And chart looks fantastic as it started to break out with the power candle yesterday. This should lead to a breakout to new 52-week high. And I would imagine this stock is going to gradually grind higher all the way to 22. From current 1960 levels. So on a percentage basis, that's about 15% upside. I like it. Good stuff. Chronicle.
Hi, Fahad. I've got some slides this morning. So this week I've added a company called Titan International to my watch list. No position yet, but I think it's pretty close to being ready. Symbol is TWI, not to be confused with Titan Machinery, which is TITN. And I'd like to preface this by saying that this is a high risk idea because the company is very leveraged. And so we're going to have to time this one properly. Because if we time this wrong,
just to be clear, this TWI, we're talking this $2.88 stock, right? I mean, this is a pretty low price of stock. Okay.
So if we time this wrong, the company could go bust. But if we time this right, then because of the fact that this company is so leveraged, the resulting acceleration in earnings and cash generation we're going to see is going to result in the stock probably doubling or tripling within a year. But it all comes down to timing. So here's how I'm planning this. First off, on the next slide, the company makes all sorts of wheels and undercarriages and components for heavy construction machinery and trucks, as well as ag equipment plus mining, both for retrofitting and new equipment. And if we look at their filings, their biggest customers are all the usual suspects like Caterpillar, AGCO, Deere, CNH. These big players make up the majority of Titan International sales, with Caterpillar and Deere being the biggest ones. Needless to say, if we get some infrastructure stimulus, Titan's outlook is going to improve considerably. Now, I have a couple notes from Morgan Stanley this morning on the next slide. The first note is Class 8 machinery orders. So they're saying that North American Class 8 orders in September came in at 60% month over month, and up 145% year over year, which are the graphs on this slide. And on the fourth slide, the next one, is the other Morgan Stanley note showing the latest channel checks for agriculture equipment, showing record tightness in both new and used inventory, as well as a sharp improvement in forward sales sentiment. Like 64% of dealers are now citing higher sales versus quarter ago 14%, and 1/3 are expecting higher sales going forward. So with regards to Titan International, on the next slide, that's the trucking and agriculture part taken care of. Now for the construction part, what I'm looking at is Caterpillar's rolling 3-month sales, which are disclosed on a monthly basis, as well as ISM manufacturing respondent comments. And the latest ones have been very positive for machinery and transportation. So when I said that I'm looking to time this entry for this investment in Titan International, the ISM soft data is already telling me this idea is good. But just to be double sure, I'm watching for this graph on the right to start flipping back into positive territory, because that to me would be a clear signal that the equipment replacement cycle is now underway. And as I've said, Caterpillar is one of Titan's biggest customers. So to finish off, people might be asking, why bother with Titan when we can just be long Caterpillar or Deere? Short answer is alpha, because if Caterpillar goes up, say 10 or 15%, then Titan stock is probably going up multiples of that. Because one method of alpha generation, which goes under the radar, is when we buy smaller companies with leveraged balance sheets, just as the cycle is starting to turn up. I find these sort of setups can often result in most explosive upside. Because of the risk, we just have to size the investment accordingly. And so on this final slide, I have a monthly chart of TWI. I love looking at monthly and weekly charts because very few people do it anymore. So I think it's an edge. So looking at the story this chart is roughly telling, we can see that every new business cycle was never as good as the last one. But with this upcoming stimulus package coming out of the COVID-19 recession, and with the start of a new upcycle, I think we can at least potentially see a revisit of the long-term monthly chart trend line, which is around $6.50. And I put my stop somewhere around the low twos, say 220, and the time horizon would be more than 12 months.
So from 288 going all the way to 6, that's easily more than double, with a stop around 220. So about 20 to 25% stop loss below the stock, naturally because it's too volatile, with a potential to double. Going back to the slide, I want to read these two comments. So I don't know if people can actually see this in the screen so clearly. To your point about the manufacturing, and we are building a theme around this. I discussed this in the fourth quarter outlook as well. Here's a quote, as you have highlighted: business is booming and the supply chain has been caught off guard. We are working closely with our suppliers to ensure supply and try to control cost. The resin industry, along with plastic, is driving cost increases and scarce availability. That's a transportation equipment customer. And then another machinery customer said, our customer order intake is increasing significantly for deliveries in the first half of 2021. Outlook is generally positive. I mean, these are very, very good comments, no question about this. And so that's why this entire theme around infrastructure and construction stocks have been playing out. And I think the most important one is this chart to both of these charts, particularly the one on the left-hand side from Morgan Stanley, where the Class 8 truck orders have seen a huge increase, 145% year over year. Now on a year-to-date basis, which includes the whole pandemic crash, the Class 8 truck orders are actually now up 12% year over year. I think one has to take a note of this and then realize that how many stocks can actually benefit from this. And this company makes those giant tires for all these cranes and stuff. So any kind of shovel-ready project from infrastructure bill should naturally be very positive. While we're at this, I will also just throw one stock real quick on this one, which is Flower Corp, symbol FLR. We saw a lot of call buying in this one on Friday, and I mentioned this in the chat room. FLR, they were buying these January 7.5 calls, and then yesterday they came back again and they bought more of these. If you look at the open interest and chart this out, you will see that right here are the bars. They were buying a ton of these on Friday, and then they were buying a ton of these yesterday as well. And FLR on a long-term weekly scale has similar kind of dynamics in play, as you pointed out, in that Titan TWI, which, as you can see, this thing has been a downtrend for more than 2 years. It was used to be a $60 stock at its peak, and now it trades at less than $10 per share. And if this thing starts to move higher with the construction machinery segment doing good, then I could easily see a name like this also potentially double. So these are very, very depressed value names out there ahead of potentially a large surge in infrastructure packages. So naturally very positive for these companies. Great stuff. I know this is a little bit on the speculative side, but I like this one too, TWI. We'll keep an eye on this one. All right, gents, thank you very much for joining. We'll see you in the chat room shortly.